Welcome to Combat Society. There's been a lot of fights and fight news that have gone on throughout the week that we're going to discuss today. My name is Madison and this is Tyrone. We've just witnessed UFC Adelaide in Australia. A lot of Aussie fighters on the card, and we're going to discuss those matchups as well as UFC Heavy Hitters finale. Awesome main event there. As well as UFC 231, Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega. That's a massive, massive fight. Also some signings that have been happening throughout the MMA world. One Championship, UFC, and we're also going to check out some comments that we've seen on the MMA forums, and we're going to give our perspective on them. So first, let's get into UFC Adelaide, the main event, Junior Dos Santos versus Tai Tuivasa.
Yeah, main event, JDS, Tai Tuivasa, a great fight. We'll go into the fight just a little bit and discuss some key factors in that fight. Now, Junior Dos Santos won by TKO. But if we look at the first round, we can see Tuivasa did land some nice right hands, failed to put him away because JDS is very durable. He's very tough. It's going to take a lot to put him away. But Tuivasa did have a lot of success in the first round. Now the second round came along and Tuivasa appeared to get overexcited with landing those shots, and he walked into a counter shot and got dropped. And
great left hook.
Yeah, absolutely. JDS got on top into full mount and won with ground and pound. And Tuivasa didn't have an answer for the full mount.
Yeah, so obviously people question Tai Tuivasa's ground game. We know he likes to bang. He just wants to knock people out. But when you fight guys like Junior Dos Santos, former champions, you know they're all-rounded everywhere. We know the upper echelon of the heavyweight division is all-rounded. The lower guys might be very one-dimensional, and some might say Tai Tuivasa is one-dimensional. When he was at the bottom of the mount, he was trying to throw punches from the bottom of the mount.
It's not a good sign when the only thing you can do in full mount is to throw punches and not even land them from the bottom. You should have a couple of escapes there, and it appeared that he didn't have any escapes. He had no answer for it. Now, it's a great learning experience for Tai. He's going to have to go back to the drawing board, rethink his strategy, rethink how much time he invests maybe in his grappling, and then come back with more dimensions, because as you go through the heavyweight division, all these guys, 70% of them, 80% of them have really good grappling, and if that's going to be a weakness that can be exploited easily, then every fight from now on, you're going to get taken down, you're going to get controlled, you're going to get smashed. So I really hope he comes back with a better game plan and more diverse, a more diverse arsenal.
Yeah. So Junior Dos Santos obviously winning that fight. Throughout the years, 5 years, he's been win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. And he's now broken that streak and he's won 2 in a row. He couldn't find that 2 in a row streak for the last 5 years. And now he's done that. And this can maybe be a signal for him getting another run at this heavyweight title. We know he's a former champ. He has what it takes to be a champion. And but there's a lot of matchups that are happening. Obviously, Alistair Overeem just won, and he wants to fight Alistair Overeem. But Alistair Overeem wants to fight Derek Lewis. So there's some really good matchups here.
Yeah, well, we don't know who's going to fight who yet. We have to see how the whole thing plays out. And I'm certain that all these guys are going to fight each other. And then after the Daniel Cormier, Brock Lesnar thing's sort of over, the heavyweight division will sort of reset, and then we'll get to really see who's the top dog. Obviously Daniel's now, but we want to see with the other contenders who can beat who and who can campaign for a title shot again.
Yeah. If we look at the co-main event, we saw another veteran versus a young Aussie guy. That was Mauricio Shogun Rua versus Tyson Pedro. Obviously Shogun Rua being the veteran, and he got a nice TKO savage ground and pound over Tyson Pedro, who early in the fight had a chance to finish it, but maybe a little bit of a strategic error.
Yeah, so first round, Tyson Pedro looked really good. We know he's well-rounded. We know his grappling's really good. We know his striking's very good, and his striking was really good. He did hurt Shogun, had him backed up against the fence, and was landed some strikes on him, but then chose to clinch and go for a takedown instead of separating. And because he was really hurt, Shogun was really hurt, Tyson could have broke away from that clinch and landed some maybe 3 or 4 more punches, and the fight would have been over. But the round ended, and they went into the second round. Shogun won that round. He came out in the third, Tyson Pedro, with a chance to win on the scorecards or get a knockout. But it seemed like Tyson Pedro hurt himself. I think he might have hurt his knee or ankle.
He was saying after that he's got to do rehab now because he's tweaked his knee. He has a knee injury.
Yeah, that is unfortunate because he stumbled on that knee and he wobbled, and then Shogun came in and landed a punch and he dropped straight away, and then Shogun finished it. He knows how to finish. He's a veteran. Finished it quite quickly, and that was it. But it's quite unfortunate for Tyson Pedro because he's got so much potential and he's got such a well-rounded skill set. He could really go all the way to the top if he could just find some consistency. Really, if he could string together 3 or 4 wins, he'll be fighting those top guys.
Well, he's 7-3 now.
He has the skill set, the kind of skill set that you need to be a champion, a well-rounded skill set. He's a real submission threat. He went for 2 Kimuras in that fight against Shogun. He's a real submission threat. He's striking, his kickboxing is very, very fluid, very quick. He looks very comfortable. He looks like a guy who could be champion if he could just find some consistency, win some fights. But we'll be seeing good things from him.
We might not see him for a while with the injury, but I'm sure when he comes back, these two are going to adjust their game plan and they're going to be better.
In terms of Shogun, this would be a great time for him to retire. A really good time for him to retire on top with a win, go out on his shield. But he's saying he wants to fight other guys and he wants to fight contenders and fight for a title, which I don't think is a smart thing because I think he gets absolutely obliterated by anybody in the top 3. Jones and Gustafsson, you're never going to beat those guys. So he's a fighter, man. He wants to fight. If he wants to fight, you can't stop him. But right now would be a great time to retire.
Yeah, definitely. If we look at the other heavyweight on this card, Justin Willis versus Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt lost this by decision and a pretty boring exchange.
Yep. It was a boring fight, straight up. But Justin Willis did what he had to do to get the win. There was no wrestling, but a really technical striking game from Justin.
Avoiding that big punch.
We know Mark Hunt loads up on that right hand. He loads up on that left hook, trying to get the knockout. And Justin Willis knew this. He wasn't going to play that game. He was staying on the outside, pumping his jab. Mark Hunt was pretty much walking into his jab all night. Couldn't get in. By the 3rd round, Mark Hunt was leaping in really recklessly with power shots and completely missing. Justin Willis was nowhere to be seen when Mark Hunt was throwing those right hands. And Mark Hunt was quite disappointed with that performance, as you would be, because we thought this might have been his retirement fight. But he jumped on the mic afterwards and didn't say much. He didn't address the retirement. He said, you'll see him soon. We don't know what that means. He didn't address the retirement. There is a fight. There is that Melbourne card, so we don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't think he'll go out like that. But Justin Willis has some... him and Tai Tuivasa have some beef. So, obviously, Tai Tuivasa saying after the fight that... He wants to fight. Basically, he wants to fight Justin Willis. I don't know, in the cage. Maybe he just wants to fight him in general.
He was saying... I watched the post-fight press conference with Tuivasa and he was quite upset, but he was calling out, saying some of the commentators were saying Justin Willis would be a fight. And he'd be like, he said, we'll fight him right now. Where is he? I'll fight right now in the back. So that's some bad blood, and that'd be a great match. Yeah,
definitely. I favour Tai Tuivasa there. But if we look at the welterweight, the fight before that one, it was Rocco Martin versus Jake Matthews, both jiu-jitsu black belts. But Rocco Martin locked in an anaconda choke. He said he loves the anaconda choke, but Jake Matthews refused to tap, and we just saw him flop on the ground, and he was out cold. He did not tap. He went to sleep.
Yeah, that was a great fight. Both even on the feet. The striking exchanges were quite enjoyable. They were really good.
Jake Matthews dropped him in the first round.
Yep, it was good. But in the end, Rocco Martin, Jake Matthews went for a takedown and failed it, and Rocco Martin got the back and then sunk in the anaconda choke, and Jake Matthews went out, and that was it. That happens, you get caught in a submission just like that. One little mistake and you get caught in a choke, and it's over. And that was the end of the fight. Really unfortunate for Jake Matthews, but for Rocco Martin, it's a great opportunity to really put himself out there. That's a really good submission. It's a rare submission. It doesn't happen that often.
I think it's only happened 12 times.
Yeah. 12. Yeah. Well, that's really good. And that's the spotlight. When you get a good submission like that, you can really move up the rankings and get some
people
better
notice
fights.
When someone goes to sleep. That's big.
Absolutely,
big
that's going to be
stuff,
going to be all over the clips, all over the little gifs. Him just going to sleep, flopping like that. It's good.
But for Jake Matthews, obviously he's a young fighter. He's UFC caliber. We know that. So I think he'll come back. Probably UFC Melbourne. I think he'll be campaigning to get on that card.
Yep.
Also, another Aussie from Australian top team in Sydney. There's a lot of hype behind this guy, Suman Mokhtarian. He didn't get the win. It was a first round stoppage for Sadiq Youssef, who he calls it black explosive.
Yeah. So that was a great fight, but I think Suman made a couple of errors there, and that cost him the fight. Now, one of those errors was standing in the pocket and just banging, just throwing strikes, but he did not get the best of the striking exchanges. Sadiq was just too quick and too powerful, and he landed, I think it was a 2 or 3 punch combo clean, and that hurt Suman. He backed up against the fence and he covered up, but that's not enough to defend yourself, especially when Sadiq's coming at you with full powered shots, 2 or 3 to the body, clean on the ribs, and then going up top. Most of the head shots were hitting the glove and arms, but some were getting through, and those ones that were getting through were quite brutal.
Yeah. So
and then the fight was stopped.
He just didn't go for the right game strategy.
Yeah.
He's known for his ground game, jiu-jitsu, and Sadiq wants to bang. He's a very sharp, very powerful guy, and Suman just didn't. He shouldn't have been striking in the pocket with him.
Absolutely,
should not be striking with that kind of guy.
I think as soon as Suman got hit, he went into overdrive mode and wanted to just. Some people, when they get hit, they get really.
He thinks
angry.
maybe I'll get him here.
Yeah,
but there's dire consequences for that.
You can't be emotional when you're hit. If you get hit, you can't just go into crazy mode and be reckless, because when you're reckless, stuff like this happens, especially against a guy who's favored in the striking against you. Not the best game plan. Now, when the fight was stopped, Suman was standing with his hands up. He protested the stoppage immediately. Was quite upset. Was that an early stoppage? It was maybe a little bit early, but give it 2 or 3 more seconds and the fight stopped anyway.
I think maybe you should wait though. Maybe you should. The ref should just wait. Like, just let him. If some are hitting the glove, some are hitting you. Maybe just let him go. You know.
I think the fight was over anyway, but maybe give the fighter the benefit of the doubt. Maybe give him a couple more seconds, because
there's no harm. Like,
that's right.
Obviously, he gets hit.
Well, there is harm. Yes. But the main thing is not that it was an early stoppage. It was that you got clipped and you weren't defending yourself properly. Putting your hands up is not defending yourself.
Yeah.
Properly defending yourself would be to have your hands up, be moving your head, trying to get out with an angle or something. But he wasn't doing any of that. Just standing there, curled up with your hands up is not a correct defense. But
I'm sure Suman will get another chance in the
absolutely,
UFC. Obviously, we know Suman was on the Ultimate Fighter undefeated. He tore his ACL in that series, and still got a chance to be in the UFC. So I don't think they'll just get rid of him. I think they'll give him another chance.
Of course, but and also, these Aussie fighters on the card, it's a lot of pressure. Especially there's a lot of guys debuting here. You're fighting in Australia in front of the home crowd. There's a lot of pressure, and I did feel like some of these fighters did look like they had a bit of nerves to them.
Yeah.
A bit of a hitch to their step, if you could say that.
Yeah.
And as they have more fights, I'm sure most of these guys will get a second chance.
Yeah.
Especially Suman. They'll come out next time more comfortable and they'll stick to the game plan much more.
Yeah. If we look at the first fight on the main card, that was Jimmy Crute versus Paul Craig. Jimmy Crute's the only Aussie to get a win on this card. Potentially the most promising guy we have, 22 years old. Got the submission Kimura in the third round, and that was late in the third round. Still got it.
That was a great fight, a real grappling showcase. Jimmy Crute early was landing shots, and it felt like Paul Craig didn't want any of that. The power was too much for him, and he immediately went for the takedowns. And he was landing the takedowns at will. Jimmy Crute didn't really have an answer for the takedowns. He wasn't sprawling, and he was able to get taken down, but he did reverse the position multiple times. He would get taken down, but then ended up on top, and that happened. It was very, very technical and very exciting to watch.
That shows that he has very good jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
Maybe the wrestling needs to come up. And
Yep.
I think he mentioned that after the fight.
Yeah, he did.
So Jimmy Crute is very promising, and he'll definitely want to be fighting in Melbourne. So the sky's the limit for this kid. Obviously, in the Contender Series, he won by a finish. So if this guy keeps putting on finishing his opponents, and he's a very confident speaker,
Yep.
we could see him being Australia's next biggest thing.
Absolutely.
The fight of the night was Kai Kara France versus Elias Garcia. Kai Kara France, there's no problem with this guy. He trains with Israel Adesanya. He trains with Dan Hooker, two good UFC fighters, and in City Kickboxing in Auckland. And he got the fight of the night. He was nearly finished with he got dropped, and then he almost got submitted, but came back and won the fight in a crazy fight against the guy who is training, who's cousins with Showtime Pettis and Sergio Pettis.
Yeah, it was a great fight. A good unanimous decision, and the sky's the limit for him for sure.
Yeah, he was doing damage in the local circuit, so we're just gonna have to wait and see what Kai Kara France is capable of. Obviously, he got a win, and he will be campaigning to be on Melbourne as well. In the early prelims, we saw another ATT guy, Alex Georges versus Damir Ismagulov.
Yep.
Alex Georges didn't get the win. He was the first fighter on the whole card.
Yep.
He looked a bit nervous, and Damir put on a great performance to stop everything Alex Georges was doing.
Absolutely. Damir had the perfect game plan and implemented it, and Alex Georges didn't have an answer for it. The wrestling was too strong. The pressure was too strong, and Alex didn't have an answer for it. There's not much else to say. There's one point I'd like to highlight is that, so he was down 2 rounds, and in the 3rd round, Alex Georges came out and then started taunting and showboating. Now, his coaches told him, you're down 2 rounds, you need to come for the finish. But he didn't do that. He was taking it easy. Now, you need to be really pushing the pressure in that 3rd round for the finish, but he didn't do that. So there's nerves there. Also, there's 2 weeks notice. He took the fight on 2 weeks notice.
It was 12 days.
12 days. There are a lot of factors there, but we will see him in the UFC again, and hopefully settles in a bit more and can put on some great performances. Yeah.
So Australian fighters didn't do that great, but UFC Melbourne is a chance to redeem themselves. So that's going to be an awesome card.
Sure.
But the day before that was the Ultimate Fighter Heavy Hitters finale, and we'll discuss the main event now, which was pretty cool. Kamaru Usman versus Rafael dos Anjos, and Kamaru Usman put on a clinic and stopped everything dos Anjos threw at him, and got the easy win.
Yeah, it was an absolute clinic by Kamaru Usman, controlling dos Anjos with the wrestling. His striking looked really crisp. His strikes were fast, they were powerful, really technical. His kicks were nice. He did everything right, and he was mixing it up as well, which is you don't see that very often. Now, I think Usman's a special talent to be able to have that kind of wrestling and then mix it in with your striking at the right times, really keeping your opponent guessing. It's a great performance, and I want to see him against these high caliber guys in the welterweight division. I want to see him fight Colby Covington. I want to see him fight Ben Askren. I want to see him fight these guys.
Maybe
Darren Till. These are great fights, and I really think that the hype on this guy is true, and he's really a superior martial artist.
Yeah, so Kamaru Usman got the win, but Dana White was saying after that maybe he's leapfrogging Colby here for the title. So we don't actually know. That could be just the thing Dana White's saying to put pressure on Colby.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Tyron Woodley is just a lot better than the rest of the welterweights. So it's a difficult one.
I think the big money fight in the welterweight division is Colby versus Tyrone. That's the big money fight. That's the fight they want to see. That's where all the talk's been happening. That's where all the trash talk's been happening. Usman might have to wait because he's been waiting, and he
Nine fights he's won.
He has been he was a stand-in.
Yeah.
So he's very close to that title shot. He's just not quite there. That they really want to get that Colby Covington fight out of the way, and then maybe he's next in line. Will he have to fight somebody in between? It's possible, but we'll see.
Yeah, so that will probably... Tyron will have to get matched up pretty soon in the coming UFC events. But also this weekend is UFC 231, Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega. We already spoke about it, but we'll speak about it again. What a great fight that one is. It's gonna be a thriller in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this fight, and I'll tell you who I think's gonna win, and I believe Max Holloway will win.
Yeah. Purely
because, in my opinion, Max Holloway is more experienced. His striking is superior. His durability is superior. Brian Ortega has weapons, but I feel like you need more than just weapons. You need more than just a skill set. You need the other factors as well, and that's what I've just said: the durability, the experience, and I feel like this fight's going to stay on the feet. It's going to stay on the feet for most of the fight because Brian Ortega does not take the fight down. If it hits the mat for any reason, a drop or whatever, then he's very deadly. Clinching is very deadly, but I feel like Brian Ortega has a lot of confidence in his striking after knocking out Frankie Edgar. He has a lot of confidence, thinking he can maybe knock out anybody. And I feel like he'll come into this fight with Max Holloway with that sort of mindset. And I feel like he's going to get boxed up by Max. I feel like he's too slick. His footwork's too good, and he's too long as well. Max is longer.
I just don't think that's going to happen. Brian Ortega, I feel he's been boxing forever. He really has. Boxing as long as he's been doing jiu-jitsu, and obviously knocked out a guy who's never been finished in Frankie Edgar. And it's just such a... We're gonna have to see the strike, and we know Brian Ortega's on the ground game is unbelievable, and he can fight for that submission. We know Max Holloway got submitted by Dustin Poirier in his first UFC fight, but Max Holloway also has submissions over black belts like Cub Swanson. So you just never know what's going to happen. But I see Brian Ortega winning. I don't know. I just see it happening that way. I think Brian Ortega is not going to submit him though. I think he's going to get the knockout.
But what about the cardio?
The cardio.
We know Max can go 5 rounds. We know he can go 5 rounds. He's a true.
I think it gets done quicker than that anyway.
Has Brian been in a 5-rounder?
No, he hasn't.
He hasn't been in a 5-round fight. That's a huge factor because if this goes to championship rounds, which I think it might, I think Max has the edge there. Having that experience is super important. Going into a 5-rounder for the first time, that's a big factor, and I think these small little factors will be the difference, and I think Max will win.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I think Brian's going to win, but that's this weekend, and that's pretty awesome because there's so many good fights coming up. But also in the landscape of trades, signings, there's been some really good signings that have been happening.
Yep.
Kron Gracie, obviously Rickson Gracie's son, has now been signed to the UFC. From Ryzen, he amassed a 4-0 record, and he's already matched up on UFC 233 versus Alex Caceres. Yep. And Sage Northcutt has signed to one championship following their 2 signings of Eddie Alvarez and Demetrius Johnson. He was on a 3-fight winning streak in the UFC, and they didn't want to re-sign him, which is pretty interesting. I think he wanted some more money, and the UFC just didn't want to pay him that much.
Yeah, the whole thing is suspicious. You got a guy, he's a marketable guy. He's winning fights, and then you let him go. It's a bit weird. Maybe there was an issue with money. There has been no talk on that from either party about money, but behind the scenes, we don't know what's going to happen there. It just seems a bit weird. But Sage Northcutt at one championship. He's a true Sage Northcutt is a true martial artist. I don't know if he's all about that entertainment sort of era stuff.
He's a nice guy. He's a very nice
guy. He's a true martial artist, and one championship really caters for those sort of guys. They cater for the true martial artists, and they're really respectful. They don't care about the trash talk. They don't care about any of that entertainment type of stuff. They just want to put on great fights and respect the true martial art.
Yeah. So Sage Northcutt, I think with that situation, they think that what they're paying him, or what he thinks that they should pay him, that they think Sage should be at a higher level. They think he should be maybe at least top 10. I don't think he's top 10, or they think he should be contending by now with the amount of money he's getting.
Yeah.
And he's just not at that, because he was a little bit inconsistent at the start. But I think that's why they don't really want to sign. They want to see how he goes in some other promotions. Yeah. And I think maybe that was the wrong choice, because one's just getting bigger and bigger. Well,
that's the thing. Sage Northcutt goes to one and he never comes back. That's a possibility. Yeah. You know, especially since
becomes a superstar in Asia.
Absolutely. You know,
it's definitely possible.
These guys going to one, it looks like it could be the premier destination. I would say it could overtake Bellator, or even be on par with UFC in 3 to 4 years. And once they start getting a real deep roster on all their divisions,
maybe Mark Hunt signs there.
You know,
he said maybe his contract's gone, and he signs and fixes their heavyweight problem up.
Absolutely, it'd be really good.
Yeah, so one is going to be really interesting now that they've got these 3 UFC fighters. They even got Miesha Tate as vice president, so it's pretty cool to see. But now we're going to get into some comments that we've been reading, and we're going to discuss them.
Yeah, some comments from the forums, just interesting stuff that we've stumbled across. Stuff that makes good conversation, good discussion, and just stuff that people are thinking about. So let's get into them.
First guy says, like I said from the beginning, Junior Dos Santos via destruction. I don't know why the commentators kept talking about Tai's power. Who has he put out? The Andre fight showed he doesn't have any power to worry about. What do you think about
that? I think that's absolutely silly. Of course, Tai Tuivasa has power. He's put out most of his opponents that he's beat. He's got power. Everybody in the heavyweight division has power. Even a guy who's not even known for having power would have power. Yeah. If you get hit clean by a heavyweight, you're going out. Unless you have an absolutely amazing chin. Some guys have really good chins. It doesn't mean the other guy has no power. Yeah. It just means the other guy has a really good chin.
I think what this guy means is that basically maybe he doesn't have enough dimensions in his game to be able to knock out those people. But if he lands cleanly, he definitely is knocking out those people.
Of course, absolutely. Of course.
So it's a silly opinion to have that he doesn't have power. Of course, Tai has power. He knocked out everyone before he got in the UFC. So
absolutely.
If we look at the next comment, it's in relation to Max Holloway if he beats Ortega. So they're saying his next matchup would be at 155 against the winner of Conor Poirier 2. Either Max gets to right one of his early career losses. Perfect for the story. So they're basically saying that Conor versus Poirier is going to happen at 155, and then he gets to right one of his wrongs, basically, because he lost to both of them, obviously.
I would say that's possible if he can get a win against Brian. If he can get a win against Brian Ortega, he could go up and fight Conor. But if he's only going to move up to 155, he won't move up to fight Dustin Poirier.
Unless Poirier wins the title.
Unless he wins the title, which is very unlikely. You got to get through Conor, then you probably got to get through one other guy, and then Khabib.
They're all tough matchups.
It seems pretty unlikely that would happen. The only way I could see Max Holloway going up would be for him to fight Conor, because that would be a fight anybody would take regardless of belts. You'd take that Conor fight, and especially Max has lost to him. You'd take that fight, or Khabib. So half of that I would say is true.
Yeah, and it would be a ridiculous fight, Conor versus Max.
Yeah.
But the next comment says, the thing about Usman is that he's dominating, but with a style that the UFC is really not trying to push, and I think I agree with that.
Yeah, he's got that style that can be boring sometimes, because he's got that wrestling pressure, and he spends. That's right. He will spend a lot of time on the fence, trying to grind you out, really searching for the takedown, and he will spend as much time as he needs to. He doesn't care about if it's boring or not.
He
doesn't care about anything. He just cares about getting you to the floor. And if it takes him a whole round,
he wants to do what he can to win. He's best at what he's best at.
If it takes him a whole round to take you down, he'll spend a whole round. He doesn't care.
And you also get points from the judges from that. Even if you're not even doing anything and you're pressuring the person, you're still getting it.
And I would say it is probably true that they don't want that style, and that's fair enough.
It's entertainment error.
That's right. But the only way to disprove that would be to just keep winning.
Yeah, if you keep winning, you're going to get a title regardless.
That's right.
You just win.
You can't argue with somebody who keeps winning.
Yeah.
And they might hate that style and give you every opponent that's your worst nightmare. But if you keep winning, there's nothing they can do about it. That you're going to get a title shot eventually. You might have to go a harder road than most people.
Yeah, he's 9-0.
That's right. You might have to go through everybody before you get a title.
12-0.
That's right.
But if you keep winning, it doesn't matter.
That's true.
If we look at the next comment, is it just me that thinks Anderson Silva, even at 43, beats Adesanya? If not, what do you think?
I would say Israel beats. I'll say Israel beats Anderson Silva at any age. I feel like Israel Adesanya is the superior striker. It doesn't matter how old Anderson is, and I say that because of his kickboxing record, and when you look at his performances in the octagon so far, or even in Hex or wherever, his striking it looks a bit better. It just looks a bit better, and he's more technical with it. So yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't think he beats him at every age. I think if they're both in their prime, I think it's a difficult matchup, of course, for Israel Adesanya. Anderson Silva is one of the best strikers we've ever seen, and I think now Israel Adesanya obviously wins. I think that's obviously he's lost a little bit of his step. Anderson Silva and Israel Adesanya is killing people. So I think Izzy wins now, but in their prime, it's just not so clear cut.
So yeah, but I heard a great analysis on this by Charles Sonnen, and it's so true. He said Anderson Silva has never fought somebody with better striking credentials than him, and that's such a true statement. He really hasn't.
And that's because he's so good, though.
That's right, but we don't know how he's going to fare against everybody he's ever fought. Has had worse striking than him, and he's been able to dominate. Now he's going up against a guy who has equal, if not better, striking credentials.
Well, we're really going to see how good it actually is.
Well,
is he actually that good against Anderson? Well, is it the best we've seen in the UFC ever?
You can look in terms of credentials in kickboxing. It's
obviously
it's some of the best.
90 fights.
That's right, and that's what I'm basing that on. I'm basing that on those kickboxing fights because we can go back and look at that.
But if I've seen sparring footage of Anderson Silva against boxers and he lights them up.
Absolutely. So we'll see. It's good.
Yeah. The next comment is Tony Ferguson has just as good, if not better, cardio than Nate Diaz. Change my mind.
I would say that's not true. So because do we see Tony Ferguson doing triathlons?
Definitely not.
We don't see him doing that.
He might, but
we know Nate Diaz does the triathlete circuit.
He does a full cycling circuit. He does
triathlons every other week.
Yeah,
like serious ones.
He's no joke in the cardio.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And with all that CBD, that recovery, the cardio makes you crazy.
Absolutely. We know Tony Ferguson has crazy cardio. I'm not saying that he has no cardio. He has some of the best cardio in the whole UFC. But when you're looking at Nate, I feel like Nate and Nick Diaz have some of the best cardio in all of MMA, not just the UFC, not just the lightweight division. I'm talking about they have the best cardio of any fighter in the whole sport.
Definitely.
Tony Ferguson has great cardio, but he's just not on that level. We know he does.
We know he has heart. He has a good chin.
He does a lot.
He could stick in there, comebacks from behind,
Absolutely.
And he's got. We're not saying he doesn't have good cardio. He definitely has good cardio.
Absolutely. We know Tony Ferguson. We don't see him doing those intense cardio stuff like those triathlons, big marathons. We don't see him doing any of that. But we do see him doing a lot of CrossFit stuff, a lot of explosive movements,
unorthodox things.
A lot of balance and stuff like that. So, in terms of that comment, I would say no.
Yeah, I would say no as well. But if you have comments, you should leave them in the comment section. We'll discuss them. We'll give our perspective on it. We always want to hear from you guys. But also this weekend, obviously UFC 231, we're going to give a breakdown after that is finished, and that's in Canada, Toronto, and obviously we're gonna eat that up. That's going to be great. So if you want to check us out on social media, it's at Combat Society AUS. On Facebook and Instagram, and we're posted there a bit more regularly. So definitely like that and subscribe, like this video, and check the bell notification because some people are not getting videos come up. So that's Combat Society. We'll see you next week.